So the national conference convened by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, has commenced sitting. In fact, it is now a month since the conference kicked off. The President had emphasized that this was, quote, a national project, a sincere and fundamental undertaking aimed at realistically examining and genuinely resolving long-standing impediments to our cohesion and harmonious development as a truly united nation. End of quote. Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Jetumobi. I thank you for joining me on the program today. Now, that national conference chaired by former Justice Idris Legbo Kutigi, former Chief Justice of Nigeria, is talking about extension of time. Don't forget, the President had given the conference 3 months to come up with a communique. Complaints about the conference ranging from the age of the delegates to the fact that the government has declared that there will be no-go areas as far as discussions are concerned. And that's where my host today comes in, a former member of the editorial board of Nigeria's Guardian newspapers, currently a member of the editorial board of the Sun newspapers, and chairman of the editorial board of the National Daily. He's also a director of the National Institute for Freshwater Fisheries Research, born in Kokori Inland, Ethiopia East local government area of Delta State. And I don't know why he's laughing now. But he holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in history. That's from the University of Ibadan. He followed that up with a Bachelor of Laws degree, LLB, from the University of Lagos, graduating with a second-class upper. He followed that up with a master's degree, LLM, from the University of Lagos, graduating magna cum laude. Called to the Nigerian bar in 1992. He is an author. His book, titled The Way It Is, he says a part 2 of that book will soon hit the market. He's on the board of several companies and managing partner of a legal firm, Chris W.A. Akiri and Co. So, join me after the break. I'm counting down 60 minutes with Chris Akiri, a legal practitioner based in Lagos. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Akiri.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on the program. I mean, I wanted us to talk about the national conference because I couldn't think of anyone else to talk constitutional law with. As far as I know, you are the only person who quotes from the 1963 Constitution to date. So, you know, you just came to my mind to be able to do justice to this topic. Now, you know that there's been a call, they say since 1991, in the time of former President Ibrahim Babangida,
that's right.
This call for a conference had started. Now we have this conference. Does it bother you about the timing? People have expressed misgivings about that because we have presidential elections in just about a year, and people think if this will not be a farce, we should have waited to do the conference after the presidential elections.
Well, the timing doesn't bother me.
Right.
It has not bothered me 1 inch. There are people in my place who say, don't die on Monday. Tuesday is too close to the beginning of the week. Don't die. Wednesday, people attend churches and so on, and that's midweek almost. Don't die. Thursday is too close to the weekend, to a weekend. Don't die. And Friday, that's almost weekend. Saturday is the day before the holiday. You should not die. And on Sunday, that is the holy day. You should not die.
So when will you die?
When will you die? Correct. If President Goodluck Jonathan had organized this conference for year 2012. You remember he came in 2011, May 29. If he had organized it for 2012, they would have said, what? I mean, you promised all this, you gave us an agenda, and you declared the state of emergency in so many areas, which you want to accomplish. Now you now start with a conference. Is that all you came in for? Is it predetermined? What? Yes. So they would have said it was too close. And the only difference between when it started about a month ago and now was just year 2013. That's last year. And during that year, you remember quite a number of things happened. I mean, that was the time they had to address themselves to the campaign promises, and there were so many socio-economic problems, confronting this nation at that time. So starting now, it's okay. I mean, there wouldn't have been anything wrong with the timing if the people selected to serve in this conference were serious enough to address themselves to issues for which they were appointed in the first place.
In other words, if I'm reading you correctly, you don't think so far, a month into that conference, these people are addressing the issues for which
they are not addressing the issues at all. They think it's a jamboree. And that's the feeling, the fear people expressed before the start of the conference. There are so many things wrong with this conference, even now. I have nothing against the convening of the national conference. I have been one of those people agitating for it. I was a member of the National Political Reforms Conference in 2005. I was in the think tank. All right. So I knew what happened at that time, but for the fact that the report was either shredded or incinerated, I mean, it would have been wonderful. So when there was need for another conference, which must be useful this time around, unlike the other one, I was so happy. But then when I looked at the choice of people, like they say, oh yeah, it's made up of, the conference comprises a disparate congeries of geriatrics,
and I was going to say that, because a lot of people say that 80% of the people in that conference are too old to be able to determine the future of young people. And, the young people are in a really small minority in that conference. And people are saying these are 80-year-olds who are set in thought. They're not dynamic in their thinking at all. And these are the people we've assembled.
That is one thing. That's the first thing I found wrong with the conference.
Because it is age limit?
Yeah, I mean, not age limit, but I mean, every good thing carried too far is bad, as far as I'm concerned. Water is good. But if you drink so much of it, you die. Sugar is good. If you lick so much, if you lick a whole packet of sugar and you want to follow up with another packet and so on, you die. There is, I mean, every good thing carried too far is bad. Like this. How come about 75%, if not 80% of the conference is made up of geriatric people? So many of them, you could almost say geriatric patients, because you see they're sleeping. And you don't blame them. The press would blame them for sleeping. Why should they not sleep? I mean, when you are a graybeard, you are drawing copious overdrafts from the bank of life already. you see, and then they say you should go there. The time you should be sleeping is the time they say you should be talking. So you sleep.
But these people talk about experience. They say, don't throw away the experience.
Correct. That's why I said every good thing carried too far is bad. We need these so-called old people. We need them. Because everybody wants to be old. I am. You see, there are too many recycled people with fixated ideas on the body politic inside that conference. See, we need fresh blood. People imagine that even these young ones have no common sense. If you listen to young men and women in this country, you will be so surprised at the level of knowledge they have. In the United States of America, for example, to be a member of the House of Representatives, you 30, you go in there.
Age 30?
Age 30. I mean, Senate is 35. And it's even also like that in Nigeria too. But how come we don't respect those people who are qualified to be in the House of Reps or on the Senate. 30, 35. Why don't we reckon with them here in Nigeria? We bring in only recycled people who go there. You want to contribute knowledge, experience, and so on, yes, but they have fixated ideas already. And if this nation had benefited from what they are now going there to say, we would have been a superpower today. So why do we bring those people who have been coming along for donkey years, and this nation remains what it is? Why do we bring them in again? And we're going to explore fresh ideas. That's the first headache I'm having. Right. But there are other headaches which we'll discuss as we go on.
Okay. Let's look at your headaches. I have a list of headaches.
Yes.
If it's not exhaustive of what you consider to be headaches, please let me know as we go along.
Yes, please.
The second headache I had was the issue of consensus. It looked like the first 2 weeks they spent agreeing or disagreeing on should it be by 2/3 majority, should it be 75%, what is a simple majority? And you know, the kind of arguments put forward made one think, isn't there an international standard, a standard practice for things like this? What would be the minimum international standard for
the voting pattern?
For the voting pattern.
Okay.
A conference
you see,
like this?
yes, you know, that is also my second headache. But then I think the mistake came from the presidency that said, oh, it's either an absolute majority or 3/4. And the presidency ought to have known that there is no way you're going to secure an absolute majority. And then even the 3/4, which is 75%, is also not possible. In other words, you just tell these people to go there, debate on very important national issues, and get out of that place not being able to reach any conclusion. That's what 75% means. I've told them too in different fora that you insist on a simple majority. Simple majority meaning 4 of us are here now.
Yes.
Now, if we want to decide, we want to take a decision on an issue, then we'll say, okay, those people 4 should raise up their hands. If 3 of us raise up our hands, then we have won. That decision is taken. Now, so that's what we call simple majority. It doesn't have to be 3/4 or
there
something.
There doesn't have to be a major gap.
No, let everybody, there are 492 of them.
Yes.
When you want to take a decision on anything, you now say raise of hands. And then there should be a method of counting fast. So that you know, you know, those people for and against. If those people for are, you know, out of 492, then we now have 240 something. In favor. That would be about 50%. That should be okay. You're not insisting on 75%, because after which are you even copying that 75%? Our constitution in section 9, it says if you want to change, alter, to use the language of the constitution, if you want to alter the constitution or amend the constitution in popular language, now you need 2/3, either at the National Assembly level or at the state level. 2/3
of all state houses
of all state houses of assembly.
Which means like 24 houses of assembly?
Yes, out of 36. It is only when you want to alter anything or you want to amend anything in chapter 4 of the Constitution, which is on fundamental human rights, which is an untouchable area because that you require 4/5. In other words, the draftsmen of the Constitution are telling you that's a no-go area. Don't touch that.
Made it difficult for you
difficult to amend, alter anything there. That's why they say in chapter 4. That's where they talk of 4/5. Otherwise, in general terms, both in America, in India, in France, in the United Kingdom, we talk of 2/3 all the way. 2/3. Because it's not all the time that you transpose what happens overseas.
So
root, trunk, and branch into Nigeria. We are doing a national conference to determine our future. Therefore, what should we do? Simple majority should have been adopted, and that should have finished all the hulabaloo about voting pattern.
Yes.
But they argued about that one, ad nauseam, until the days were ebbing away.
Yes.
And today we have spent slightly more than 1 month out of the 3 months.
Yes.
And then we begin to talk about extension of time.
Okay.
So, extension of time means what? Do something fast first.
Yes.
They argued about food money, that the thing must be monetized. Why should the public, why should the world hear anything about your lunch? And the type of people selected to that place, be talking about food allowance, should be monetized, and so on. That took another length of time, and so on. But then we have more headaches.
Yes.
Yes, many more headaches.
All right.
Yes.
Join us again after the break.
Who knows abi better thing? Abi who no like better thing? All these fine things wey dey see so. Na money government dey take do am now. Abi, it's like, excuse me, I dey pay my tax. I dey do wetin? I dey pay my tax. Say you don't pay your own tax. Have you pay your tax?
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetomobi. On my hot seat today, Chris Akiri, the chairman of the editorial board of the national daily newspapers. Now, Mr. Akiri, just before we went on the break,
yes,
you talked about the monetizing of feeding. Some people complained about the debates on allowances for AIDS and so on. Delegates claiming that they needed legislative aids and all that kind of thing, which causes one to imagine that some people think this conference is my time and my opportunity to get my dividend of democracy from this government. That's the way some people,
yes,
not all, some people in this conference,
yes,
see it. Do you agree with that?
I agree totally. Some people think this is my time. Let us make the most of it.
Yes.
As for aids, the allowances for people to assist.
Yes.
To assist and during the conference. I'm finding it difficult to make up my mind about the legitimacy or otherwise of that request.
Yes.
Because you see, in 2005, during the National Political Reforms Conference,
yes,
there were such aides, who
were they
assisted.
Real aides? Because the fear is if I'm there and I bring in my cousin, my sister-in-law, my brother, and say, oh, these are my aides, and they're all being paid.
For you to get somebody to assist you,
yes,
well, if the person is knowledgeable about what you were talking about,
yes,
because during that time, there were lawyers, there were sociologists, there were political scientists, men and women who could write very well,
yes,
to assist the principal officers at the conference. As they were talking, you were taking notes,
yes,
then you retire into conferences, and then in the evening you begin to draft what was discussed.
Yes.
He has no time to discuss, the principal, that is.
Right.
He has no time to write,
yes,
all these things, details of what is going on. But in the evening, the aides will go back and write out everything, yes, that he said, yes, and other people said, yes, and maybe analyze the whole thing and give to his principal, yes, and then say this was what was discussed, yes, to prepare him for the next day.
Yes.
All right, so that's where I was telling you I was finding it difficult to make up my mind about the legitimacy or otherwise of the request. I think they should have added money for aids to it,
yes,
to the whole thing. But having not done that, the question is, why were the conferees, why were they selected in the first place? Why were they nominated in the first place?
What was the criteria?
Correct. Is it not because they were deemed to be knowledgeable or known to be knowledgeable about what should be discussed there,
yes,
knowledgeable about the entire country, about the problems confronting this nation, which will be discussed there? Is that not one reason, yes, they were nominated? Yes. So now they are there. They probably need no assistant, no aid.
Because they have an idea. They are purported to have
yes,
ideas
of all these things.
Yes.
You are not going there to be prompted to say what you are going to say or something. But just that in the area of writing and preparing the mind of the principal against for the following day, I think there should have been assistance. My major problem is that this country is confronted with gnawing problems, very big, very serious socio-economic, political, and cultural problems.
Are these delegates aware?
Correct. First of all, why are they there? They are there because of this problem that we are talking about, which every delegate must be aware of. If he is a delegate properly so-called, he should know to start with that Nigeria is a federation. That the foundation on which the superstructure of what we call Nigeria today was laid was federalism. And nothing could shift it. And when some attempt was made in 1966 by the late General J.T.U. Aguiyi-Ironsi to make Nigeria a unitary state, he paid the supreme penalty for it. Yes. So let nobody think that he can change that foundation today. Nigeria is a federal state. And as a federal state, the only thing that can link us together, link the federating units together, is a good constitution made by the people. Now, the constitution that we are having today is decree number 24 of the military regime, just before the dawn of the Fourth Republic. Yes. Now, they made that constitution for a decree. You know, decree is a military law. Yes. Decree number 24. And it is redolent of so many years. It is an amalgam of very noisome, irreconcilable concepts. The constitution is both federal and unitary.
In nature.
Yes, in nature. It is both secular and theocratic in both contents and letters. It is both, libertarian and authoritarian, democratic and authoritarian. This constitution you're talking about, take a look at it. For you to know it's a military document, you will be surprised to see that in a constitution for a civilian regime, we have an ouster clause, ousting the jurisdiction of a court, of the courts, inside this constitution. This constitution is supposed to make me to show that Nigeria is a secular state. When it begins in chapter 10 by saying, under this constitution, neither the federal government nor any state government should make any religion a state religion. So that makes Nigeria a secular state.
In other words, at public events, when people complain about prayers being said by any denomination, that is breaking the secular law.
Yes, that's breaking the secular law. But even if it's what is the name of this thing? If it's a public something, you are organizing something now, for example, and you have invited me and you have said, let us pray. That has nothing to do with secularism. Right. But when it's a state matter, remove religion from it. America recognized this fact a long time ago, so that in November of 1791, they made the first amendment to the American Constitution of 1787. The very first amendment distanced the state, the American state, from religion. They said, no religion, don't bring religion under this constitution. No state or federal government should talk about any religion. And they've so distanced themselves from religion ever since that time, ever since 1791. Now in Nigeria, thank God, Section 10 of the Constitution makes Nigeria that type of secular state. But when you go to Section 275, it says any state that likes it can introduce a Sharia Court of Appeal. Section 260, same thing. This is how you establish your Sharia Court of Appeal. So you can see this discrepancy. That was why when that governor in Zamfara state, Yerima, introduced the Sharia into his own state, contrary to Section 10 of the Constitution, nobody could say anything. Obasanjo's government could not take him to court, because they knew they would fail, because those people had Sections 260 and 275 to rely on.
Yes. If we know that this document
Yes.
is faulty,
Yes.
who will change it? Those
Correct.
who are there now,
Yes.
having benefited from it,
Yes.
will not be in a hurry to change it.
Okay, so fine.
Secondly,
Yes.
No matter how bad it is,
Yes.
are we saying it can't be made to work with mature deliberation from everyone concerned if we want to make it work?
You see, if we want to make it work, there is no way you want to make it work. The provisions of the Constitution must be given its literary meaning. You must interpret it according to its literary meaning. I mean, if it is plain.
Yes.
The Constitution is saying there is secularism in Nigeria and there is theocracy in Nigeria. And that is the way it goes. And as long as theocracy mixes up with secularism,
Yes.
for so long there shall be problems. We cannot run away from this problem.
Yes.
Imagine now, I mean, the problem of Boko Haram today.
Yes.
If you say it's political, you are right. If you say it's religious, you will also be right. If you say, no, it's only
It's
political, it's
neither.
not, if you say it's only political, it's not religious, you will recall that there was a time when those people, the Boko Haramites,
Yes.
if you will allow me to call them that, the Boko Haramites insisted if President Jonathan
Yes.
wanted to remain in power, he should convert to Islam. And again, they insisted on creating an Islamic republic in the place where they are now, in the northeast as a whole,
Yes.
if not in the whole of the north, and if not in the whole of Nigeria.
So that's religious.
Correct? That's religious. So the Constitution having religion and secularity inside it is bad. It's bad Constitution already from the beginning. And that was the problem that was created in 1978. When General Obasanjo summoned a constituent assembly to fashion a new civilian constitution for the nation. Yes. On the eve of his departure.
Yes.
So they argued this point ad nauseum. It nearly broke up this country. That constituent assembly presided over by the late Chief Rotimi Williams. The Northerners insisted that there must be that religious aspect in the constitution.
Left in there, and that's where I will come in again.
Yes.
If you say that these are some of the issues, the
Yes.
serious issues,
Yes.
you are asking this conference to discuss.
Yes.
Do you think the Muslims, for instance, using this point you've made
Yes.
as an example, if I were Muslim,
Yes.
I wouldn't want Section 260 removed from the Constitution.
Yes.
Because as a Muslim, my duty is to be a Muslim, and it pays me for my constitution
Yes.
to recognize my religion.
Okay. Now, as a Muslim, you wouldn't agree because mixing politics with religion
Yes.
is almost anathema. Is almost forbidden in places where they want socio-economic development.
Yes.
You must not mix politics with religion. Like the American example that I told you.
Yes.
Like England, like that, for example, English people are Anglican.
Yes.
Anglo Church, which was established way back in the 16th century, under Henry VIII of England. Now, but today, you don't see them carrying religion on top of their heads when they are taking decisions.
Yeah.
Politics is different from religion. So those people, those Muslims who want socio-economic development for this land,
Yes.
will know that religion is separate. Religion is your private, communion with the Almighty God.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect everybody. What affects everybody is what politics is out to discuss.
And that's socio-economic development.
Socio-economic development. That is number one. Number two, now I told you the importance of federalism in Nigeria.
Yes.
Now, during the First Republic, we had a truly federal state, complete with its concomitant, fiscal federalism. As at that time, if you took a look at the 1963 constitutions,
Yes.
you would discover that the exclusive legislative lists contained about 18 items, between 12 and 18 items.
How many does it contain today?
68.
From
68
12 to
from
18?
12, 18 to 68. That shows you that the doctrine of crossing the field has been carried to a ridiculous extent. So that Nigeria is truly unitary and not federal anymore. And it is so dangerous. Nigeria can't stand if it ceases to be federal. I must tell you, because this is a plural society. This is a society that comprises a disparate congeries of ethnic nationalities, and therefore the type of constitution that is suitable for this is the federal constitution. Any other type, it could be confederal.
What is the clear advantage that being a federal society will bring as opposed to what we have now, a unitary government?
Federal constitution means each of the federating units has coordinate powers with the other.
Well, equal.
Correct? With the central government. And look at it. This is a federation. A federation is a system in which there have been so many independent or autonomous states which now decided to come together.
Yes.
To say, let us come together in a kind of way. Let some kind of thing unite us. Yes. Then everybody would agree. Yes. Okay, so when we agree, now we have formed this union, but then we cannot take action on every item. You know, like defense, for example. Yes. Like central banking, like immigration, correct? Yes. You know, like copyright, all such things, you know, the armed forces, that's defense, yes. All such things. You can now see that when you name all such things, there can be more than 12. That we will now say, okay, let's hand this one to a central body. Let us create a central body that will handle these functions on our behalf.
So the central body does the passport.
Yeah, passport.
The central body does, you know, all the things that everybody else will benefit from.
Correct. That's the thing. Now, in doing all of this, from what I've just told you, yes. you would have discovered that the federating units that came together to found a center, you know, collectively are the creator. And that the central government they created for themselves to work for them is the creature. Can't you see? Now,
created at their pleasure.
Yes. In other words, normally a federation should have a centrifugal, you know, a centrifugal policy.
Force, yeah.
Yes, not centripetal. Now, in the First Republic, the federation was centrifugal because all the states, apart from the fact that there were only 12 to 18 items on the exclusive legislative list, yes. and then there was a concurrent legislative list having no more than about 20-25. Now, today, that concurrent legislative list has about 30, and 50% of that 30 are almost like items on the exclusive legislative list, if you find out. Now, and again, there was a third list, which we call residual list. In other words, all those items not mentioned on the exclusive legislative list or on the concurrent legislative list belong to that list. You don't spell it out. It's not in the Constitution, but you call it residual legislative list. And that list belongs to the federating units, not to the center. But today, the boot is completely on the other foot. You know, because in fact, if you read item 68 yes. on the exclusive legislative list, you will see that that residual list is built into it more or less, and it's for the center. So that makes Nigeria more a unitary state than a federal state, okay. which is very dangerous. Right. There are other areas, there are more troubles.
Ahead.
Yes.
So we'll take that when we come back from the break. So join us again after the break. Perhaps no one has ever done 2 terms in Ekiti State because they've never performed and the people have never wanted them back, you know, because they haven't performed.
I don't even think the question has arisen before in Ekiti. Let's look at the record. Only one governor has ever completed a 4-year term in Ekiti. Otumbani Adebayo. So you cannot base an assertion on a conjecture. You must base your assertion on evidence that you can clearly demonstrate as true. Governor Lumilua, the only Ekiti man that we had who was governor in Ondo State, the old Ondo State at the time, did not even have the opportunity to finish the 4-year term. Remember, this was 93. He only spent 2 years in office, less than 2 years, before General Abacha came in November 1993 to take the government by force. force. And then under this dispensation, 1999 to 2013, there's been no basis for it. So how can you argue that nobody has ever done something when there's been no basis to put forward such an argument?
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Chris Akiri, the chairman of the editorial board of the national daily newspapers. Mr. Akiri, why will the federal government convene a conference and that conference will subtract from its powers? Nobody will want to contribute to something that will diminish its powers. That's what you're saying this conference should try to achieve.
Yes.
I don't see it happening. If you all have been selected by the president and the federal government, so to speak,
yes,
you aren't going to do anything to diminish his powers and his status. I don't see how this conference will be able to reduce that 56 or is it 53%
yes,
that the federal government gets every month from the allocations.
Yes, but that's where statesmanship comes in. You have to be a statesman and so on. You remember that there was something called the USSR.
Yes.
Until Mikhail Gorbachev came in. When he saw that what was going on in that big, huge confederation was not good enough, that it was deleterious to the survival of the peoples of the confederation,
yes,
he did something about it. So the dissolution of the USSR as the power bloc,
yes,
came through him, and forever he will be remembered as a statesman. So you cannot do like Winston Churchill, who said, "Oh no, I cannot preside over an empire that will break up."
Yes.
No, you can't say that. If you do that, then you cannot be a good statesman. This country, as it is not moving forward. We are moving in circles. We are not moving forward. We are not making progress. So if we are not making progress, do you, as the current head of state,
yes, want
this nation to move forward? Do you want us to move forward? We have everything, all the resources in the world, both human and material,
yes,
to be a superpower.
Yes.
And we are not moving any close to that. We want to be 2020. One of the 20 greatest economies in the world in year 2020.
That's 6 years' time.
That's 6 years' time. And we know we cannot get there, let alone become a superpower. And yet we have all it takes to be a superpower. So do you want us even to get to year 2020 and become one of the 20 greatest economies in the world? Yes. And even become a superpower? If you want that one, then you allow, I think that was what President Jonathan had in mind, yes, when he summoned this assembly together to sit and discuss this issue, so that whatever is going to make this country move forward,
yes,
then we could do it.
Yes.
And I think if this conference will be able to achieve that,
yes,
and I can't see how this conference is going to achieve that. You probably want to ask me why I think so.
Why?
Correct. So? I think so because whatever good things they are going to discuss,
yes,
number one, how are they going to arrive at decisions that will be acceptable to the generality of Nigerians?
And that's where I want to comment.
Yes,
some people say,
yes,
if there is no referendum,
yes,
after this conference, then
yes,
it's all been a waste,
correct,
of time, energy, resources,
yes,
and it's a farce.
Yes, or I went to television to let the president know that the report of this conference must be subjected to a plebiscite, to a referendum. Now, because if you take it to the National Assembly, I mean, it's like what we're doing is like fashioning a brand new constitution for ourselves, which the National Assembly has no constitutional right to do. And even the assemblymen themselves don't know, they don't have the right to do what the National Conference is doing. They don't know. They think they can fashion a new constitution for this country. No.
Why not?
No, why not? Because you see, if they try to do what is not in the constitution, whatever they do will be ultra vires. Correct. Now, the section 9 of the constitution says the National Assembly has the right to alter any of the provisions
of the Constitution,
subject to the provisions of the Constitution itself. All right. Now, alter any of the provisions, and you cannot see that, you cannot read there that the National Assembly has the right to formulate or draft or fashion out a new constitution.
In altering,
yes,
can't I alter every section to the point that it's a new constitution?
If you now alter from section 1 to section 320,
yes,
which we have in the Constitution,
yes,
then you would have formulated, you have fashioned out a brand new constitution.
That's
not amendment, that's not alteration.
That's not what section 9 anticipates.
No. To fashion out a brand new constitution, you need a constituent assembly. And the National Conference that is ongoing is a movement in that direction. Whatever they discuss at the National Assembly about the Constitution, then subsequently a constituent assembly has to be set up to, bring all these points, how to iron them out and put them into a constitution form. Not the National Assembly doing it. Because, you see, this National Assembly is not ready today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow to try to do what the National Conference has been asked to do. You see, they are aggrieved, the way I look at them, that so much of their powers have been taken away.
By this conference?
Yes, by this conference. That if they are there, they are the lawmakers. Why are we putting some people there as if to make them look like they are also lawmakers? That's what they begin to think.
Yes.
They don't know that they cannot handle so many of those things that the conference is handling.
Yes.
They are trying to see how we can get a brand new constitution, which the National Assembly has no power to do under the provisions of Section 9.
Yes.
So you see, these are the things. You subject it to the National Assembly is going to preside over, and then again, the details of voting and all that, vote this one out. What the conference had already agreed to, National Assembly can just set it aside.
Yes. If it doesn't pay them, especially.
Which it doesn't pay them. Yes. And it's going to make this National Conference nugatory. It will make it nonsense.
Redundant.
Oh yes, if you just say the report should be taken to the National Assembly, that is not there.
What if, I'm just thinking outside the box, what if the members of the National Assembly amend the Constitution, put in a new section there that allows them to fashion out a new Constitution?
But you see, they cannot do that because, first of all, unless we are going to do it when Jesus Christ comes back again. Otherwise, it's not something you would do now. Amending the Constitution, you can see that it's not easy to amend this our Constitution. It's not easy.
Yes.
And when...
It seems that that's what the drafters
yes,
of the Constitution intended.
When they look at when the National Assembly looks at the whole thing, what they are trying to amend, they say this is what is good for us. They're self-serving something. So they say we will amend it. Don't forget it. The amendment at the National Assembly would still have to go to 2/3 of the state houses of assembly, which may now say, no, this is going to favor the National Assembly. No, it's not, and they may not amend it. So that's why a neutral body like the National Conference has to come in and do it, to review the Constitution, preparatory to the setting up a constituent assembly. Review the Constitution. I just told you review, not amend. The National Assembly can amend, alter the provisions of the Constitution. They cannot review the Constitution. Reviewing the Constitution means bringing out almost a brand new Constitution.
Right.
That's what people use these two words interchangeably.
Yes.
No, it's not like that. Oh, they are reviewing the Constitution. Oh, they amended the Constitution. They are not the same thing. Correct.
So, if I get you correctly,
yes,
you are saying that when this conference finishes,
yes,
the president should convene another constituent assembly,
yes,
to look at the decisions reached by this conference,
yes.
And is it
that's for fashioning out a new constitution? That is
right.
In other areas, there will be other areas of the report will be subjected to a referendum or a plebiscite. Right. Now, to determine the acceptability or otherwise of those suggestions coming from the conference.
Right.
Like we are operating a presidential system today.
Yes.
Away from the parliamentary system that these are some of the things the Constituent Assembly, the conference is supposed to look at. Are we to remain where we are, presidential system, or are we to go back to parliamentary system? What are your reasons therefore? And then all such things will be subjected to a plebiscite. When agreement is reached nationally,
yes,
and then such things will become the norms of the society thereafter.
And you know, a lot of people say the president had previously said members of Boko Haram were even in his government. Why hasn't he deemed it fit, or the federal government, or the authorities, or the police, arrested those who made the statements about making the country ungovernable?
Oh yes, I mean that is it.
Are they sacred cows?
That is the problem, because you see, in this country, it's not as if you know as much as I do that in this country it's not as if we don't have laws.
Yes.
The problem is the absolute lack of political will to enforce these laws, and therefore, you know, the way we do things. Somebody may have committed a heinous crime.
Yes.
And then, number one, you may not want to arrest him because he's a sacred cow.
Yes.
And then number two, you have arrested him, he's tried, you know, when I mean tried in quotes, tried, and then after some time, because you see, the memory of the average Nigerian is so short.
Yes.
We forget about it and the man is
move on to the next
We may
thing.
move on to the next. When people are killed, oh, there is a furore. There is a furor, oh, this person has died, and then the police will come with their mantra, oh, we will get to the root of things. We will leave no stone unturned. Oh, this one is the one death too many. We will do everything. And that's the end. In 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, all Nigerians have forgotten and they forget everything about it. So that you can now see the array of dignitaries slaughtered in the prime of their lives, about which nothing has been done so far. And that's the same thing with what President Jonathan has done with all those people who threatened fire and brimstone, that if he won the election, they will make Nigeria ungovernable. And I'm even pretty sure that they know so many of those people, you know, funding this Boko Haram thing. But they won't do anything about it. That's the problem. You cannot trace the funds because it is not Almajiris that are funding it. Yeah. It's not Almajiris who dies, suicide bombers who buy the Hilux boxes, go in Toyota, you know, and so on, cars. People buy these cars for them, these buses, you know, Okada. They buy for them. You cannot trace the origin of the funds, you know, by which this thing operates. I mean, we should be able to do that. And all those people who made such incendiary statements before and shortly after his election should be brought to book. They should not be seen walking freely on our streets. And nobody is going to say you are totalitarian because you have created the Nigerians listen to them. Yes. I mean, our people will say, if the witch cried last night and the baby died this morning, who will not be able to attribute the death of the baby to the cry of the witch last night? So if you said Nigeria will be made ungovernable, and it's being made ungovernable, just because you won an election, why can't you go after those people to start with? There are people funding this thing. There are people funding it. First of all, you have to know those people to start with and bring them to book. All those people that we say, oh, they're Boko Haramites that they caught and they put them in detention, some in DSS prison and detention camp or whatever. Have you heard that some of them have been brought to book? They've been tried in the court, sentenced to death because they committed, you know, murders all over the place. Have you seen them being tried in public and then sentenced to death? Nowhere you won't hear that. If this war ends today and 1,000 Boko Haramites were caught before the end of the war, they will be free. Yeah. They will be mixing with all of us the day after. And that's the headache we have in this country. In the US, you commit any crime, however small, you will be apprehended. The next moment, you will be apprehended, and you will be subjected to the rigors of, trial in a criminal court. But not so in Nigeria. And that's why we continue. They say, do it. Nobody will catch you. And even if they catch you, they won't try you. Even if they try you, will not do anything. And that's our problem. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Dad, the pleasure is my own, Angela Ajetumobi. It's such a beautiful time with you.
Thank you very much,
My
sir.
pleasure.
And I'm sure I will have you back. As the conference is rounding up,
yes,
and we know what direction they're going, we'll have you back to have
That will be wonderful. I will come here readily.
Thank you.
I know the road to this place.
And that's it for this week. Don't forget to like 60 Minutes with Angela on Facebook. Alternatively, you can follow me on Twitter. Angela at 60 Minutes. I'm Angela Ajetumobi. I thank you for the pleasure of your company.